In this episode, we're going to differentiate ransomware attacks in a way that helps you recognize what kind of ransomware event you are dealing with and why the impact can feel like a business stop button instead of a normal security problem. Many beginners think ransomware is simply files being locked and a message demanding money, like a thief putting a padlock on your computer. That picture is not wrong, but it is incomplete because modern ransomware is often a multi-stage campaign that includes stealing data, disrupting operations, and pressuring decision-makers. The core of ransomware is extortion, meaning the attacker is trying to force you to pay by making the pain of not paying feel larger than the pain of paying. Different ransomware attacks create that pain in different ways, and your job as a responder is to identify which levers are being pulled so you can prioritize actions and communicate clearly. We will keep this discussion high-level and beginner-friendly, but we will treat the impact seriously because ransomware can shut down real-world services people depend on. To differentiate ransomware, start with the attacker's leverage, because leverage is what makes the ransom demand believable. In the simplest form, the leverage is encryption, meaning the attacker locks data so systems cannot read it without a key. This is what most people imagine first, and it can stop work immediately if critical files and servers are affected. In another form, the leverage is data theft, meaning the attacker copies sensitive data and threatens to publish it if the ransom is not paid. This can create legal and reputational pressure even if systems keep running. In a more aggressive form, the leverage is disruption, meaning the attacker not only encrypts but also breaks systems, deletes backups, or sabotages recovery to increase downtime. Many modern incidents combine these, creating what people often call double extortion when encryption and theft are used together, and sometimes triple extortion when additional pressure is applied, such as threatening customers or partners. You do not need the marketing terms to understand the differentiation. You just need to identify whether the attacker is holding your data hostage by locking it, by stealing it, by sabotaging it, or by combining methods. Another way to differentiate ransomware attacks is by what the attackers targeted first and what they chose to encrypt. Some ransomware events are focused on endpoints, meaning many employee computers get encrypted, which causes widespread disruption but may still allow core services to run if servers are protected. Other events are focused on servers and shared storage, meaning file servers, databases, and shared drives are encrypted, which can halt multiple departments at once. Some events target virtual infrastructure and management systems, meaning the systems that run many other systems are impacted, which can cause a cascade of failures. Some events target specific business applications, meaning the attacker aims at the systems that keep the business alive, like scheduling, billing, or operational control systems. The pattern of what is encrypted is a differentiation clue because it reveals attacker intent and preparation. An attacker who can encrypt central servers likely had broader access and more time inside, while an attacker who only hits a few endpoints may have been stopped earlier or may have used a less tailored approach. Differentiation is about reading those choices as part of the story. Ransomware is also differentiated by how it spreads and how coordinated it appears, because not all ransomware incidents are equally sophisticated. Some ransomware arrives through a single compromised device and spreads opportunistically, taking whatever it can reach. Other ransomware is deployed deliberately across many systems at once, as if someone waited until the perfect moment and then pressed a button. The second pattern usually indicates the attacker had time to understand the environment, obtain administrative access, and disable defenses before launching encryption. You might see signs of this preparation in the form of security tools being disabled, backups being tampered with, or administrative accounts being used in unusual ways. The difference matters because a coordinated deployment often means deeper compromise and more hidden damage, while a more opportunistic spread might be contained more quickly if defenses are working. For beginners, the takeaway is that speed and synchronicity are clues. Sudden, widespread encryption events often indicate an attacker who planned and staged the attack, not one who stumbled into it. Now we need to spend time on why ransomware is a business stopper, because the impact is not only technical. A normal malware incident might affect a few systems, and the business can limp along while security teams clean up. Ransomware aims to make limping impossible by targeting the systems that enable core processes, like accessing customer records, producing goods, scheduling services, processing payments, or communicating internally. When those processes halt, the business may stop generating revenue, may fail to deliver critical services, and may suffer cascading contractual and safety consequences. Even organizations that can technically operate without some systems often rely on those systems for coordination, compliance, and documentation, and losing them creates chaos. Ransomware also creates decision deadlines, because attackers set a timer and threaten to increase the ransom or leak data, forcing leadership into high-stress trade-offs. That pressure can distort judgment and lead to rushed decisions that create long-term harm. Understanding the business stopper impact means recognizing that ransomware attacks the organization's ability to function, not just the confidentiality of data. One reason ransomware stops business is that modern organizations are deeply interconnected, so one system going down can take many workflows down with it. For example, a billing system might depend on a database, which depends on storage, which depends on network services and identity services. If the ransomware hits a shared identity service, many logins fail, and people cannot access their tools even if the tools themselves are not encrypted. If the ransomware hits shared file storage, many departments lose access to templates, forms, and operational documents, which can stall everyday work. If the ransomware hits backup systems, recovery slows dramatically, and downtime becomes longer and less predictable. This interdependence is why ransomware impact often expands beyond the initially encrypted machines. Beginners sometimes focus on counting encrypted devices, but the more meaningful measure is which critical dependencies were hit. The business stopper effect comes from hitting shared dependencies that are central to many activities. Ransomware also creates a special kind of psychological and organizational disruption that amplifies its impact. People may not know which systems to trust, so they stop using systems even if those systems are technically still available. Teams may shut down connectivity to prevent spread, which can interrupt business even further. Employees may lose access to communication tools, making coordination harder right when it is most needed. Leaders may be pulled into urgent decisions about ransom payment, legal reporting, and public messaging, which diverts attention from other critical operations. Attackers count on this confusion and pressure because disorganization increases the chance of paying quickly. So part of differentiating ransomware impact is recognizing when the attacker's leverage is not only technical, like encryption, but also operational, like forcing a communications and decision crisis. For a responder, maintaining clear situational awareness and structured communication becomes part of technical defense. Another differentiation clue is the presence and role of data theft, because it changes what recovery means. If the attacker only encrypted data and you have reliable backups, recovery can focus on restoring systems and preventing reinfection, though it can still be painful. If the attacker also stole data, recovery must include data breach response considerations, like assessing what was taken, what legal and contractual obligations exist, and what downstream fraud risks may appear later. Data theft also changes attacker leverage, because even after you restore from backups, the attacker can still threaten to publish stolen information. This can keep the incident alive in the public eye and in legal processes long after the technical recovery is done. When you differentiate ransomware, you treat data theft as a separate impact channel rather than as an optional detail. The business stopper effect can then shift from operational downtime to reputational and regulatory pressure, meaning the pain continues in a different form. You can also differentiate ransomware events by how recovery options are constrained, because attackers often try to remove the defender's best alternatives. If backups are intact and isolated, you have a strong path to recover without paying, though it still takes time. If backups are encrypted, deleted, or otherwise compromised, recovery becomes slower and less certain, which increases pressure. If key systems are corrupted rather than just encrypted, recovery may require rebuilding environments, which is more complex than restoring files. If the attack disrupts identity services, even clean systems may be hard to use until identity is restored. The degree to which recovery paths are damaged is a major indicator of incident severity and attacker sophistication. For beginners, the key idea is that ransomware is not only about what was broken, but also about whether your repair tools were also broken. Attackers who understand business operations often try to break the repair tools first, because that makes the ransom demand harder to resist. Finally, differentiating ransomware includes recognizing that it is often the last visible step of a longer intrusion rather than the first step. Attackers may spend time gaining administrative access, moving laterally, discovering backups, and identifying the most disruptive systems before launching encryption. That means a ransomware event can be the moment you notice the attack, not the moment the attack began. This matters for impact because the attacker may have already accessed sensitive data, created persistence, or compromised multiple accounts. It also matters for response because focusing only on cleaning encrypted machines might miss the deeper compromise that enabled the encryption. Beginners sometimes think ransomware is a single malware infection, but in many cases, it is a coordinated operation. Differentiation means you treat the encryption as a symptom of broader compromise until you have evidence otherwise. That mindset helps you avoid premature closure and reduces the chance of a second wave. As we close, remember that ransomware attacks can be differentiated by the leverage they use, the targets they hit, the coordination of deployment, and the state of recovery options. Some ransomware relies primarily on encryption, some relies on data theft, and some combines methods and sabotages recovery to increase pressure. The business stopper impact comes from hitting shared dependencies and critical workflows, creating downtime, decision pressure, and organizational disruption that reaches beyond the technical damage. Data theft changes the long tail of the incident by adding breach response, legal, and reputational consequences even after systems are restored. Recovery constraints, especially compromised backups and identity systems, are key severity indicators because they determine whether the organization can regain operations without paying. When you can quickly classify a ransomware event using these clues, you can communicate more clearly, prioritize response actions more effectively, and understand why ransomware is treated as an emergency that can stop a business in its tracks.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.